So real quick, please help me get to 10,000 subscribers. Please consider subscribing. I'm going to give you the best Christian content moving forward. Hit the bell to get notified every time I release a video. Less than 10% of people have this on. So now we need to talk about charismatic theology real quick, or even Protestant theology, because this is how we got here. So bear with me for a second, because this is going to seem like a rant. It's going to seem like I'm taking you no place, but this is going to be a rich conversation. You're going to want to stick with me. Charismatic theology is by far the weakest in the Christian world. It's not even close. A matter of fact, there are very few charismatic scholars alive on the planet. Gordon Fee was one of those. He died recently. He lives in Queens, New York City, about 10 minutes from me. Baptist and Reformed people have much more sound theological basis. Actually, Catholics have some of the best scholars in the world, and there has never been a woman priest in 2,000 years of the Catholic Church. I'm actually glad I had a chance to study at both charismatic and a non-charismatic seminary, but charismatics are often using a surface reading of scripture. And so they're not going into historical context or the language or they're not doing exegesis. They're often just using a surface reading of the scripture, and they often ignore very key details, and scriptures are constantly misused and applied. Like consistently all across the board. I'm talking about the pastors that have been pastors for 30 years are using scriptures, and it's like that's not what that scripture means at all. On top of this, many people do not understand church history at all. For 1,500 years, we only had the Catholic Church. Now, Luther brought a reform and then brought along the Protestant denominations. This helped the church in so many meaningful ways. As a matter of fact, Martin Luther is one of my heroes. But with it came a schism of over 300 Protestant denominations with vast differences. And this caused the church to become fragmented. And in many ways, a lot of these churches didn't have oversight. Then the Jesus movement came, which there's this new movie out called Jesus Revolution, which is real popular right now, and which was sparked by this hippie preacher, Lonnie Frisbee. And this created modern megachurches. Now, this is where it gets even worse, because now these churches went from, Protestant churches went from denominations to no denomination at all. Now that's how we got non-denominational churches or charismatic churches. So now we have all these churches with no denomination and no history behind them. So they're kind of making things up as they go. This is important for so many reasons. When this happened, now we have many churches with no oversight, and a majority of these pastors do not have formal theological training. Now, in denominational churches, it's hard to become a pastor without having a seminary degree. Now, you don't need a seminary degree to shepherd people or for church administration, but if you're going to be teaching and writing books consistently, then you really do need theological training. Charismatics often use, like I said, a surface reading of the scripture. So they're not very good at certain things, various nuances and details. I'm going to make a video on Bill Johnson's book, which is When Heaven Invades Earth. And he basically commits heresy in the book without even realizing, and then later some theologians begged him, please, you gotta rewrite this book. He said that Jesus laid aside his divinity in order to perform miracles. So he was only relying on the Holy Spirit, which is totally inaccurate. Now, Bill Johnson's been a pastor for decades. He should have known something like this. You would learn this in a catechism class in the Catholic Church when you're 10 years old. But so it's like little things like this that you don't think are big deals, but they are. This leads to sloppy theology, which then in turn leads to bad church practices. Now, in the charismatic world, people don't understand something is that people with amazing ministries in the charismatic world, such as John Alexander Dowie, A.A. Allen, William Branham, they had great signs and wonders in their ministry, but eventually ended up going off the deep end with bad theology. These guys started off well, but ended up falling over a cliff. It's all because they really didn't have proper training to be doing what they were doing. They didn't have a proper understanding of the scripture. And they fell into theological errors, which basically derailed the movement. So Protestants are all over the place in practice. So many the mainline denominations collapsed, and then all of this goofy stuff ended up in the church. And most people don't even realize it. And this is especially true for the charismatic world. They got this whole conversation right now on the NAR, which is the New Apostolic Reformation. And it's another way to say crazy charismatic church, because nobody really knows what they're doing. They're making it up as they go along. They have no theological training, and they really don't understand church history of the Bible. Charismatic theology is the weakest by far. Please understand this. So whether or not you want to believe this, I would say about 75% of people, and it might be much, much higher, have no right to comment on whether or not we should have women pastors, because they don't understand church history or theology. Where 90% of church history, we wouldn't even be having this conversation at all. Period. It wouldn't be a conversation. So just like communism or critical race theory made its way into the Christian church, this happened in one of my churches that I was going to. It's a large, well-known church. And basically, this stuff happened. And critical race theory is communism. And it made its way into the pulpit, putting culture over kingdom. So basically, this is how a lot of this has made its way into the church. This conversation, right? And many other worldly conversations made its way into the church. And when that happens, you need to head for the door in your church. Head out right away. Head for the doors. Whether or not you realize it, modern feminism has infiltrated the church beyond a shadow of a doubt. There is no question about it. The question, most people don't even realize it because they don't have anything to gauge it by. I grew up in a Lutheran church, which was a charismatic Lutheran church, but there was no nonsense or silliness or goofiness in that because they have such rich structure. The pastors are trained, they know what they're doing, they understand church history. So we've seen a lot of these goofy, silly things end up into charismatic churches and Protestant churches.